law firm owners have no time, right? And
Uh-huh.
and accounting and bookkeeping is the last thing they want to be doing.
If your books aren't broken, you don't have to fix them. But if they are, then now it's time to reassess your tech stack. From my perception, Clio Accounting is quite handy because it's like a less is more thing. There's not an external app that you're integrating. Instead, it's Clio talking to Clio.
In terms of then, again, talking about scaling and future-proofing your firm, preparing it from growth, how should growing law firms prepare the accounting systems for scale?
Having good standing operating procedures.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Automation for Lawyers podcast. I'm joined today by Joyce Hylender. Joyce is an awesome golfer, fun personality, and is also a CPA. Started an audit in the Big Four in KPMG, then transitioned into building a new company under the arm of PwC in a Shark Tank, helping clients and law firms with outsourced bookkeeping. And actually, now in 2019, recently opened up her firm, and her team and now are providing year-end close and preparation services for law firms and advising them on how to best as well use technology and any new tools coming into the market to make their bookkeeping and accounting more efficient. Now, Joyce is one of the first partners in the United States that offers advisory on the new Clio Accounting service and tool that recently was launched, and more than 1,000 law firms are already using and applying in their practice. Welcome to the show, Joyce.
Hi, Martin. Great to speak with you. I've been looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, let's get going. And the first thing that I would love to know is, how was your transition from working in these big companies in KPMG and PwC to now working with small law firms?
Thanks, Martin. So I really enjoy working with law firms, and the change from enterprise to small to medium sized businesses has been really great because it's got a more personal touch and more buy in from the owners of these small businesses and law firms. So it's a lot more, I have a lot more passion for the small to medium sized businesses because I know the owners. I'm a little bit more vested. I can hear their pain points and what they aspire to achieve with their business, and that makes it more exciting for our team.
And I guess you can have just a larger impact, perceived impact, right? Because with these big companies, you're just, a small cog in the machine, right? While working with small law firms, you can really change their direction where they're going, right?
Absolutely.
And so, what common financial pain points have you identified working with small law firms in terms of accounting and bookkeeping?
Yeah, so typically meet a law firm owner, have an intake call, hear their pain points, and that's really the first thing. Like, let's get to business and talk about what do we need to help you with. And the pain points involved include bill pay, paying their bills, paying their employees, reimbursing employees for when they park at the courthouse, and running bills on time to help their cash flow be a little bit more consistent as far as getting them out on time and having great cash flow.
Right. I mean, cash flow is a big one because even like if you're just not getting the bills out quickly enough, that really limits
Yeah.
the the law firm growth, right? Because if you don't have
Mhm.
the pay reinvest into the business, that means that you're ultimately running slower. So that what I have found as well with some of our clients, for example, we just been recently working with a firm 2 months late on sending out bills to their clients, right? Now,
Right.
first of all,
Yeah.
obviously, like as well, like that's not a great client experience, right?
Right.
But also that simply means that again, you have this huge backlog, and you cannot reinvest in the business because you cannot get your bills out quickly enough, right? And and so I think technology plays a big part in that, right? In structuring your bookkeeping accounting around that. I would love first to touch on kind of the more common scenario of using a more traditional, let's say, bookkeeping software like QuickBooks, and how it integrates specifically with Clio. And then we're going to talk about Clio Accounting and how does that come into the picture, right? So to kick things off with the Clio Manage and QuickBooks Online integration, what have you found are the most common bottlenecks when connecting those two?
And QBO have an open API, and I haven't seen a lot of bottlenecks between the two. But maybe that's because our firm does not have them really have a two-way sync. It's more of the outside accounting work of reconciling accounts. So reconciling QuickBooks Online and Clio Manage is not part of the integration. It's more of looking at point A to point B, and do they match? Do they reconcile? Is everything clean? So there's not like an integration that would do it for you. That's where the service comes in. Does that answer the question?
So most of the time, then I understand they would send out their invoices to the clients, right? Their bills through Clio, right? And then you need to manually add them to QuickBooks.
Hang on, you're refreshing my memory on that. So you can have the bills paid in Clio Manage, and then it comes over as a match in QBO, and that has been really helpful for law firms and using QuickBooks Online to achieve that.
Right, right. Can you talk a bit more about some of the other tools that you are using on a daily basis that just help out, again, get those bills out quickly and make sure that they're paid on time?
Yes, so Bill.com, currently their name is Bill, but formerly Bill.com, Bill has a good open API that also syncs with QuickBooks Online. So that integrates with just the law firm being able to email and hand the bill over to an inbox and bill, and then have your accounting team code it, code it and tag it to the right chart of accounts and post it for it to be approved and paid by the law firm. So one of the best practices that I've seen has been when you have a cadence between your accounting team and the law firm, and you're saying, okay, every Wednesday the law firm owner is going to come in and approve and pay bills. So then there's a good understanding of the cadence for the accounting team to make sure that all the bills are in and they're in the queue to be approved and paid. That way, the law firm doesn't have to come in and do the tagging and do the review. Instead, they would just come in and be ready to say, okay, this one's good to pay. This one, I want to call them. And then they have um, they're empowered to have the choice of, okay, am I going to pay this right now, or do I need to call them and dispute a late fee and have some ownership in that?
Right. So Build.com is a great tool. What other tools are you implementing?
Ramp is a great tool for employee reimbursements and having a good control on your employees who work for you. So you have your employees, you're trusting them to go out and represent your firm, and they're going to the courthouse, they're taking clients to lunch, they're paying parking in front of the courthouse. And so there's a huge need to track the client and the matter that charges for. So in the past, there's been a difficulty where there wasn't such a thing as ramp, where the employee of the firm would have to do this kind of work on the weekend. And they would come home and spend their Saturday saying, okay, well, I have a parking ticket or not a ticket, what's it? Parking.
Park and expense. What? Yeah,
Yeah,
bill.
I have a parking. Good idea. Okay. So I have a parking expense. And what was I at the courthouse for? I was at the courthouse for 5 different matters. So it really takes a lot of time out of the employee, probably decreases their morale and enthusiasm about going and serving clients, which is not something that a law firm would want their employees to feel. So Ramp an integration that you have your phone and an app, and while you're at the courthouse waiting for the judge to come in, you can take pictures of your parking pass and how much lunch was and how much your mileage was and that you went and got gas. So that's a great feature in Ramp. And then also the control of the law firm owner to have a restriction and visibility to what they're doing. What is the employee doing? How much are they spending? So if an employee is taking somebody out for dinner and you can set a metric of, okay, if it's over $100, we're going to get a notification on my phone. And if it's $120, I have to approve it.
Right,
So,
right, right.
so there's a lot of good controls there, but also real time is the huge benefit of having different integrations that are there to help you, and so that your law firm can run itself and you can be at home and relaxing and enjoying holidays.
So if you got some lobster and black caviar with your client, then you're not leaving the restaurant until the law firm owner approves it.
That's right. Just order
And,
another round.
yeah, exactly. With ramp as well, you said that one issue it's solving is how do we allocate these expenses against a particular matter, right? So doesn't ramp have this some kind of like project management feature where you can define different projects or matters that the firm is working on, and then when submitting the expense, the employee can automatically like match it with the right matter?
Absolutely. So there's customization where you can tag very specifically in Ramp that this is the client name, this is the matter number. And so that uniqueness really helps get you a unique ID across all your platforms. So if Clio Manage has that unique ID, Ramp can have the exact same thing. That way you can do a side by side comparison and reconcile Clio Manage to Ramp to QBO.
Right. And does it have a native integration with Clio, or do you need to like manually create then those matters and projects in ramp?
I believe it's manual.
Right, right. Well, that's where automation can come in, right? That's where the good thing is well about all of these tools. A lot of them have APIs, so you can quite easily connect it to Zapier and say, "Hey, when a new matter is created in Clio Manage, automatically create with the same ID, right? The client, the matter inside of Ramp. So whenever your employee then needs to submit expense, it's already there. Need one step less when you onboard a new client. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
Martin, that's part of like what I'm most excited about is you and I are here to help law firms. We're looking at the big picture, a sky level view of how a law firm can do great things and achieve their goals, but there's several components, and we don't want the law firm owner to feel like that weight is on their shoulders. In fact, there's a key component that integrates the accounting side with the tech stack that achieves the optimal performance that you could have for your law firm, which alleviates time for the law firm owner to be able to focus on their clients and do what they love instead of working on accounting and researching apps on the weekend on their own time.
no, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest pain points, I mean, the biggest pain point that we see with our clients is just law firm owners have no time, right?
Uh-huh.
And accounting and bookkeeping is the last thing they want to be doing, unless he's really specialized, and most people hate it, right? And so the easier
Yeah.
that we can make it the job, the better. Of course, of course. Let's now shift a bit and talk about another common pain point that I see, law firm owners that we work with in the communities talk about, and that is trust accounting, right? And what have you found the biggest issues that firms face in terms of trust accounting, especially like when working in some of the software solutions you've mentioned, such as QuickBooks, such as Clio Accounting, Clio Manage, etc.
So for trust accounting, the biggest pain point that I've seen has just been exactly what you said about time. When a law firm owner doesn't have enough time, they're going to intermingle funds. You're at the register, you have your debit card, your credit card, you're going to swipe it, and in the debit card stance, it might be your trust money, but you didn't have enough time to transfer that money from your checking to the IOLTA. So that is where it starts to get messy. And that's the huge indicator of, okay, we have to get a grip on this.
Right. So what would then be a good way to solve for that?
Having an outsourced accounting firm look and manage that to review your weekly activity and see, looking in Clio Manage and seeing the trust deposits come in and being able to reconcile that to QBO to make sure that your actual trust account in the bank reflects what was paid by your clients. So having the separation of those things between your checking account and your IOLTA is huge. But the trickiest part has been owning that and managing it all by yourself, to have a weekend recap of, hey, this is your trust reconciliation, and every week you know that this is right, and I'm good with the state board, is a great feeling to have. But the fear of having the state board examine your firm is a real thing.
Right, 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 right. And ultimately, the Clio Accounting came in, right? Clio decided to launch an accounting product to solve some of these issues, right? And that's a very exciting launch. But I also see potentially some pitfalls there, right? For example, does it didn't integrate with your payroll provider? Does it have some of those things that you would expect from QuickBooks in terms of functionality? So I would really love to get your perspective as one of the firms in the country who is working with this new product. In your experience and based on what you have seen so far, how would you advise the law firms to make a decision, right? Do they go for QuickBooks? Do they go for Clio Accounting? And then when to make the switch?
It makes a huge impact on the readiness of your firm and how those unique identifiers work for you. If you're so also if your books aren't broken, you don't have to fix them. But if they are, then now it's time to reassess your tech stack. But the Clio Accounting is quite handy on, from my perception. Clio Accounting is quite handy because it's like a less is more thing. There's not an external app that you're integrating. Instead, it's Clio talking to Clio. So I think that gives some security between data integrity. Um, so I like that about it a lot, in that it does factor in how much is going to trust, and looking at your Clio pay and what is coming in. Um, but certainly QBO at this point has a lot more integrations, like you mentioned, with payroll.
Right, right. And so would you then recommend Clio Accounting just to the firms that are starting out? Or would you see it really feasible, for example, with firms of 10, 20, 30 staff members as well?
It depends on how it's also employee buy-in and change management adoption. So we don't want our clients to have to change their apps as soon as they meet us. That'll make not a good experience for anybody. So the QBO versus Clio Accounting, there's also Zero, which we haven't talked about, but there are great solutions for law firms as an accounting ERP solution. Um, but Clio Accounting would be great for I would say 10 or less who are
Right.
just starting out and haven't dipped their toe in the water with QuickBooks Online. I think that'd be a great starting point. Price point wise, Clio Accounting is cheaper than QuickBooks Online, so that may resonate with a law firm trying to decide, where can I save some money and make different decisions for my firm. I
Right.
also anticipate Clio Accounting making more advancements as they progress with sprints and deployments.
Yeah, I mean that obviously it's quite new development on the market, right? People are still testing out the waters. But I really see it as a nice solution for somebody just starting out. It's like, hey, I have no
Mhm.
systems right now. I run my firm on Excel, right? What is the next step? Well, the next step is, okay, cool. You can get Clio, you can get Clio Grow, you can get Clio Manage for case management, you can get Clio Accounting for accounting, right? But as well, what we are seeing with some other firms who are trying, for example, to scale, then these plug and play solutions sometimes then are not suitable, right? If you really want to scale quickly when you reached another level of growth, obviously, because you have mentioned, okay, what if, for example, if you have multiple locations, like how are we managing that in Clio Accounting? Okay, we're gonna need to run payroll for 30 people, right? We don't have those integrations. How are we gonna do it, right? So I
Correct.
think when people ask of like, hey, what is the best tool for accounting for law firms, right? What is the best CRM for law firms? It always my answer is always it depends, right? Because it depends on your firm size and your firm needs. Clio amazing, right? To start out, Clio Accounting can be amazing when you start out. Okay, you start growing, you've seen some pain points, you see some limitations of the product. Cool, maybe then do make the switch, right? Great. Uh, so in terms of then, again, talking about scaling and future proofing your firm, preparing it from growth, how should growing law firms prepare their accounting systems for scale?
Having good standing operating procedures and workflows in place have really been helpful for employees to understand the why between what they're doing, which helps scaling. So, scaling is just being able to duplicate the same process as you grow. So, you do not want to be in a situation where one employee is the only one that knows how to do a certain task. So part of future proofing your firm would include having standard operating procedures, a knowledge base where an employee, if they are spinning their wheels on how do I do something for my law firm, there's a knowledge base that they can refer to and feel empowered to do the work for you. So it's good for the law firm owner to have awesome employees that are empowered to do their job, but it's also a good feeling for the employee to know that they are empowered to go solve problems and take care of business and help their boss.
Right. Well, that's where I guess solutions like, for example, as well, ramp would come in, where again you gives the liberty to your employees to, for example, submit expenses themselves, right? Uh, to have a credit card that is linked to the main account, but has certain limits in place, right? So it reduces the back and forth that you need to have in between the stuff, right? What the other day I was on this one talk and with this one startup founder, and he said that they got some investment and they scaled their firm from 10 to 30 people very quickly, but then realized that the scale too quickly, right? They onboarded too many people on customer support, too many people on the actual service delivery, but their marketing didn't really scale with that, and so ultimately they were just they couldn't pay their people. They had to let a part of the team go. What are some of the KPIs that law firm owners need to be looking at? Key performance indicators, right? Numbers, metrics that you would assess when scaling a law firm.
So in Clio Manage, there's really good tools to look at like referring attorney and then responsible return attorney. So a good KPI to look at would be who is bringing my firm in the most referrals, the metric of how much revenue is that bringing to my firm, and then also the responsible attorney for how profitable they are also doing in making bringing your firm revenue. I think that's a great solution. And then also on the employee end, if you are hiring people in particular, that their job is to bring leads to your firm, there has to be a KPI that measures how many calls did that person make in a day? How many led to a warm lead, a closed deal, and what was the revenue that individual came in? Because that's when you scale from 10 to 30 and you hire, for example, 5 salespeople, and it's too much. And they're if you have 5 salespeople but no standard operating procedures for that script that your salespeople want to bring leads to your firm, there's no way to measure consistently and assess, are they making me money or am I just throwing money out there to have a individual call people and solicit my firm and their services. So I think that looking at that as well is good, but certainly at month end, quarter end, it's a great practice to be looking at metrics of utilization by your attorneys and their billable rates compared to how much they're making you on the firm, like their realization rate, and looking at that employee by employee.
Right, 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 right. Another question that I'm very curious about is this cash versus accrual accounting methods, right? So I'm originally from Europe, and in Europe, it is pretty much everybody's running an accrual system, right? So it was a bit of a surprise to me when I came to the US that there are two different methods, right? And firms can just like choose easily, which one they want to run with. Could you explain a bit more the benefits of each one, and for firms that are starting out, like which one would be best for them?
It certainly depends on how experienced your accounting team is. If you're doing it yourself and employees are spread thin, cash basis is the way to get it done. It's not. It's just showing you the past and showing what happened. Accrual basis kind of factors in and gives a law firm owner a better idea of what is to come, and that helps with planning and forecasting and setting goals for your firm. So a lot of times I've talked to lawyers and they don't even know what their monthly expenses are. Like, what is a routine month? How much does it cost me to keep my lights on for 1 month? And that is that's part of just having the right data in place and the right advisor in place to be able to give that data to you and you not be working on it on the weekend, or trying to pay your bills at night. But there's a difference between bookkeeping and accounting. And the bookkeeping is just the data entry, but the accounting is taking it to the next level of being able to look at your expenses and assess, okay, how much was telephones, how much was telecommunications, how much was my utilities, and being able to see the overhead of your firm compared to like hard cost versus soft cost, and being able to make decisions for your firm on how you want to operate to give you the most revenue and bang for your buck.
Right. And for firms that's already running on cash accounting, when would you say is the right time to switch to accrual?
I wouldn't encourage people to switch to accrual as if they are not experienced with accounting or wanting to make that change. Cash basis does get the job done. It does give you insights. It's just accrual almost makes things a little bit more difficult than what the law firm may need. So it's certainly up to them. I wouldn't really steer them one way or the other.
All right. And when looking at different practice areas, right? Because obviously all the different practice areas have different billing cycles, right? If you're doing some complex, litigation case, then you may not get paid a year down the line, right? While if you're processing, I don't know, traffic offenses, then obviously that's much quicker cash flow there. So in terms of looking at it from that perspective, right? Are there any recommendations in terms of cash versus accrual for specific practice areas?
No, accrual would be great in those cases because you want to anticipate the cash and have it on your balance sheet. Because if you have a contingency case like that, or one that you mentioned that the money is not anticipated until 2 years later, then you do want that on your books, because if you go to the bank and show them your firm's financial statements and your assets are not reflecting the work that your firm is doing, and what that means is you're in cash basis, you don't record it until you have the money. So in that case, your balance sheet and the assets would be lower. And then in accrual basis, they would be higher because you're anticipating the money. It's written down that that money is coming. You just haven't had it hit the bank yet. So in those cases, it is advantageous to have accrual basis. one thing that's really great for law firms is using custom fields for the matter so that they can tag the difference between their cases, like contingency cases. And I've had other law firms use the custom field to tag the billing cycle, like the cadence of how often do I want to bill this matter. So some could be have a custom field of monthly, some could have a field of bi-monthly, and then you'd be able to have that automation in place to be able to run bills and have differentiation between knowing that this certain client I only wants to be billed once a month. And being able to do something like that is kind of taking your law firm to the next level of service because you are working with the client. You're meeting them where they are. So you're doing your intake with the client. They say that they only want to be billed once a month. You can say, no problem. We've got it. And use the custom field to automate their billing sequence.
Yeah, which will ultimately will differentiate you from other firms that provide less flexible options, right? Because I mean that's a big
Correct.
thing. It's a big thing depending on which practice area you work in. That could be a very big thing and a big differentiator that would set you apart from other firms in your local area. Fantastic, fantastic. Well, let's wrap things up here. How can people get in touch with you if they're interested in talking to you about bookkeeping and accounting and maybe golf?
Yeah, so the best way to get in touch with me is on LinkedIn. Um, but you can also call my phone number. It's 601-550-0123. But we also have a website. It's hhisolutions.com. And actually, I have to say that over again. It's hhi-solutions.com. And then we can get in touch, and I'd be so excited. But the reason I mentioned LinkedIn was because my golf clips are on there. So about once a week or more, I post videos of me playing golf and having a good time. But I also integrate some communication about leadership and sports mentality for how to run your business. So I'd be thrilled if you looked at my LinkedIn.
I love that. I love that. See, just not just a boring, bookkeeper or accountant. There's there's nothing more to it. No, amazing, amazing. I just tried golf the other day. Have never played it before, and I really can see how it can become addictive. It's a fun sport. It's a fun sport.
Yes, it is. It's very challenging, requires a lot of patience, but it's always good to go out with your friends and get away and be outside with some fresh air.
Exactly, exactly. Love it. Well, thank you very much, Joyce. It was a pleasure speaking with you. And guys, stay tuned for the next episode.
Bye.